Is your business running you, or are you running your business? At the end of this video, you will know which one it is, and you will also understand what to do about it. You don't hear me say that very often, but when it comes to growth, there is really truly only one way to do it, and that is to leverage yourself as much as possible. One of the things that I learned from my brilliant mentor, I've had 5 great mentors so far, and it's not over because I keep learning from people who have results that I want. But one of my mentors so far has been Bob Proctor, like many of you know. And he said something to me years ago that stuck in my head. He said, you have to do it by yourself, but you can't do it alone. There's a lot of paradigms here. We're programmed that we have to do it all by ourselves. And so because of the paradigm, the idea is already in there. We go from maybe having a job to becoming an entrepreneur and doing something on our own. But the paradigm, the programming hasn't changed. There's still an equal mark or an equation between time, the time I spend on something, and the results I can expect. But that's the illusion. That's what we're trying to break here. It is my belief today that it is easier to earn a lot of money in a short period of time. It's much easier than earning a little money in a long period of time. Our goal, first and foremost, is to chart the course, set a goal that is really worthy of us, and then understand that resources will be attracted to you as you start taking steps towards that goal. One other piece of advice I got from Bob was a 3-step process as it relates to this. Do it if you must, delegate it preferably, or ditch it. Do it, delegate it, or ditch it. Either you are running the business or the business is running you. There's something inherently unique about you. There's something that you bring to the marketplace that no one else could bring. And you can say, well, somebody else sells the same products as I do. Well, they're not you. You have a possibility, an innate possibility to bring more of your creative side to the surface and deliver it in a way that is unique to you. So you have to focus on your unique talents and abilities. And the more you are in those unique abilities, and the more you leverage out of everything else, the more you're going to grow. So 20% of your input provides you 80% of the output. That's the Pareto principle. You can say it in other words, if 20% of your time is spent in your genius zone, in what makes you unique, in what makes you extraordinary in this world, you would see 80% of results derived from that. But if you're spending most of your time with things that you're not passionate about, that you're not very good at, but you try and do it because you think you have to, you're losing the game. And that makes no sense. As a business owner, you may feel inclined to do all your own marketing and write all the copy and do all the accounting by yourself, and by the way, also sell in some of the products and services that you do provide to the world. Then you're not spending your time wisely. There's only in business, there's sales and sales support. You should be spending most of your resources in a very unique way in conveying the value of what it is that you have to bring to the marketplace. There's really 4 value ladders. Let's talk about them real quick. The 4th step, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th and the lowest value is implementation. That's where you're paid a certain amount of money to implement, to do some work. Let's say, so one of my someone that works for us, she comes and she tidies up the house here and she cleans everything. She comes tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it because we call them our Ava days. Ava is her name, and she's wonderful. She's a beautiful soul, and I really, really appreciate her. But when Ava has been here and implemented half a day's work, the whole place is shiny and smells good, and there's order, and it's wonderful. But that's implementation. That's a piece of physical labor. Many business owners, believe it or not, are stuck on the 4th level. They implement everything. The next step is management. It's where you are paid a little more to manage a team that implements. All right, there's not a whole lot of growth there either. The second step is communication. It's where you elevate yourself over the implementation as much as possible, and you work on communicating the value out to the world. And that is the step where you are more in your unique abilities, what makes you totally unique to the marketplace. There's no end to the growth you can experience at that level. And then the highest level of value is imagination. That's where you spend your time, your precious time, with ideas and resources. And ideas coupled with resources create even more to create from. But if you and I just aim for the second step, we're pretty well on our way. We all have unique talents and abilities, and we need to lead with them. We need to keep leading with them. And you need to, the moment you think you don't have the resources to outsource, or you don't have the resources to pay someone to help you, the truth is you couldn't afford not to do it, because you're spending too much time doing something that is not driving the needle. Let's say for me, for instance, I would, if I spent my time doing accounting work, very left brain, tedious, detailed numbers work, I would, I, I mean, I would waste my time. I wouldn't get much done. It would take me way too long, and I would burn my resources on something that I'm not very good at. That would be a waste of my time. And most people spend their time doing things they're not very passionate about, they're not very good at, and yet they still think they have to do it. It's absolutely nuts. I have a question for you. If there was no limitation, time-wise, budget-wise, in your calendar, how would you love to spend your days? That's a very simple question. It's not easy for most people to answer, because the moment they ask themselves the question, the paradigm kicks in and they go, well, I can't because, and this and this and that, and they come up with 1,000 reasons as to why they can't. And of course, it's not really them talking, it's their paradigm. But that's a question to stay with. If there was no limitations in your calendar, budget, or otherwise, how would you spend your days? And secondly, in what way would you love to serve your fellow human beings? In what way would you love to serve your fellow human beings? When I stayed with that question long enough, great ideas have come to me, and that has been greatly responsible for leading a new vision for my business and a new direction in terms of where we're going. And that also means you have to let go of old operating systems, old ways of doing things, and that takes a respect of, I would say, courage and focus. Most people in business, at one time or another, they burn out. They're stuck and they're burned out because they think they need to do everything. That was me. I had a paradigm of doing everything myself. In entertainment, my former business partner and I, of course, we did everything. We grew up in a tiny little town, and we did everything. We built the flight cases, we built the props, we performed with the props, we pulled the curtain in the theater, we set up the lights, we played the music, and oh, by the way, we also performed on stage. And so I took that paradigm with me. And when I started performing bigger shows on cruise ships, I remember one time I'd just been just I just started doing this show, and we were building up the props for this big show on this cruise ship. And there was 13 dancers rehearsing on stage. They were part of my cast. I had 5 technicians available to help me, but I would still be backstage with a wrench trying to build the props, put them together. And I remember my stage manager came down. He was like shouting at me. He's like, "Get your hands off those props. That's my job. Get your little face down to the dressing room and put on your costume and get back on stage and do what you do. Let me do what I do." And I'm like, all right, I learned something about leverage. He forced me to leverage, basically, because he saw what I was doing and it wasn't very healthy. That was my first lesson in leveraging myself. And so, you have to keep looking at all the things you're doing and the reasons as to why you're doing them. And the more you ask yourself, why am I doing the things I'm about to do now? You'll come back probably to a main cause called a paradigm and an idea that you have to do everything. And so that paradigm, I started working with it back in entertainment. I got better at it. But when I started in this business, I didn't think I could afford an assistant when I first started, but Bob told me you can't afford not to. And the moment I hired Lisa, it was the biggest blessing. She was a superstar and really good at what she did. And she freed me up to do more of what I did very well and do very well. So we have to accept the things that aren't driving our results and let other people do them because they're better at it. One thing I've heard somebody say, you have to build your weaknesses or build on your weaknesses. I don't agree. I think we should manage them and then amplify our strengths. So, what do I mean by that? I know I have a weakness when it comes to details and left brain work. So I don't try and become better at it because I'm inherently not very good at it. And I would have to spend too many resources if I were to try and build a spreadsheet and do calculations and budgets and all of that. I don't, I manage it. I have somebody to help me do that. And so we have an extraordinary CPA firm that helps me with budgeting and management and numbers and all of that. They bring me all the details and I can make decisions based on that. And then they go on and create more details. But I manage that weakness and then I amplify my strengths. I do more of what I'm really good at, and I keep looking at how we as a team can get better because we're all working together to create the results we're creating. And so, one of the things we need to do as entrepreneurs and business owners is really focus on the vision. Where are we going, and why is that goal important to us? Because you will find, as you have that clear goal and you know where you're going, like I said before, you will attract the people, the ideas, the resources, the money, if that's the problem, to help you execute on it. And that's where it has to come from. That's where your decision making has to come from. Oh, I don't think I can afford to hire the help I need. Well, you can't afford not to. Would a person that is standing in the goal, would they have done that or would they not have done that? They would most likely have done that. They would have hired the help so that they could get there faster. We need to do it by ourselves, but we can't do it alone. That's a good one to remind ourselves. Another system I want to give you today, and I think this is very, very valuable for you, something I've used for a long time now, and that is, let me digress. Your mind works in a very orderly way, but you don't always. What do I mean by that? Sometimes, when you find yourself thinking that you have to do all these tasks, you find yourself switching from left brain work, logical, analytical, data driven work, to, oh, by the way, I have to write a newsletter kind of work, creative work, then back to something that's strategic and logical and chronological, and then back to something that's creative. If you do that many times a day, you will burn the candle in both ends. That's very unhealthy. So I'm going to, present you with a system now that will help you in that regard. Because this is a challenge. A lot of people switch between creative and administrative work many, many times a day, and so it burns their resources more than necessary. So knowing that we operate in an orderly way, knowing that we have a left brain, very logical, analytical, we have a right brain that's more creative, intuitive, but we can actually decide what part of our personality we want to use at what time. And so we have mental tools, they're perfect. Again, it all works by law. It's what I entertain most of the time that expresses itself in physical results. So if I let myself switch between all these different tasks throughout the day, I will probably be in a conflicted frequency. And that's where stress starts. Whereas if you were to start and just focus on creative tasks the entire day, you will be in a different vibration throughout that day because you're going to be in a creative energy. And then maybe you do all your left brain work another day. So a system that I've used, it's from Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, from a great book, 10x is easier than 2x. You have three kinds of days as an entrepreneur. You have free days, that should be your priority. You have focus days, and then you have buffer days. So free days, completely off, not doing any kind of work. Buffer days, it's for follow-up, it's for administration, it's for catching up on all these loose ends that we all encounter as entrepreneurs. And then we have focus days. And focus days are where you are in your unique ability. That is where you are locked in to what makes you unique. So today, for instance, for me, is a focus day. I have a lot of program calls for our clients. I have this YouTube live. I have a community training here in a little bit. That's a focus day. That's when I'm on camera. I'm locked in to my unique ability. You could say maybe 2 days, 2 free days, fits with a weekend. If you're an entrepreneur, your weekend could be Wednesday, Thursdays, just saying. And your focus days is where you're on in your unique ability. Maybe that's 2, 3 days out of the week. And maybe you have one buffer day in your week to follow up, to do admin work, to do that kind of stuff that might require you to switch between the logical and the creative side of your personality. But that is going to help you manage your resources better. And when I say resources, I mean mental resources. You will find that the more growth you experience, the more necessary it is to take time out to regroup and recuperate. Another way to look at it is, instead of calling them free days, because for a lot of entrepreneurs, they have a hard time freeing themselves. They're like, they have to do something. Call it recuperation days. It's where you recharge. They almost feel guilty for calling it a free day, right? So call it a recuperation day, where you recharge. And if you're bogged down in a lot of implementation work all day, every day, you're not going to have a clear mind to think from. Your decisions will not be bad decisions, because there's no bad decisions. There's just a lot of decisions you're going to learn something from. And there's some decisions that are great. But you'll find that the more growth you experience, the more needed it is with recharge days. So off days, focus days, and buffer days. And that is a big paradigm shift. It's hard for entrepreneurs to take time out. It's, they feel their business is in need of them 24/7. That means they don't have a business technically. They are a self-employed entrepreneur that is employed in their own business. And that's actually very, very unhealthy in the long run. You can do it in a short term. Many of us have. But in the long run, it's not very healthy. And I just spoke to an entrepreneur an hour ago. He's in our community, very successful. But he did a few blocks around time. He didn't think he had too much time to work on himself. And that's the biggest red flag I hear from entrepreneurs. I don't have time to work on me. That is not good. That is the one thing you can't afford not to work on. And there's so many places you can outsource to today. There's Upwork, there's Fiverr, there's places where you can hire freelancers to do what you're not very good at. It doesn't have to be full-time. It could be a few hours a week. But the first thing you have to recognize is where you are when it comes to, right brain, left brain kind of work. If you're very logical, analytical, then you probably need some help in the marketing department with creative work. If you are a very creative, intuitive person, you love to write your own marketing assets and your newsletters and all of that, great. You probably need some help in the finance department, because that's not what you usually would be very good at then. And so always hire the exact opposite of you. If it's your first hire or your first outsourced help, make sure it's somebody that actually complements you, not the same type of personality like you are. You would want somebody that's actually very different, because they're going to complement you and do the things that you're not inherently good at. And we have to do it by ourselves, remember, but we cannot do it alone. You need help. We all do. And you will get to where you want to go so much quicker by embracing that idea. We all need help in various ways, and the world is becoming smaller and smaller. We depend more and more on each other. And it's the economy we live in today. There's never been more opportunity than there is. And it just takes one idea, one right path, one goal, the right mentor. Coached tens of thousands of people at this point with personal goals, professional goals. We've had a lot of entrepreneurs in our community. If you know there's room to grow for you, connect with us. We'd love to set up a call and help you figure out where you want to go, where the challenge lies, and what we can do to help you get there.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I have linked to a couple more right here that I think you would like. Now, until next time, it's not who you are that holds you back, it's all the illusions of who you think you're not. This is Hansen. Thank you.